In 1973, the Supreme Court decided, finally, to legalize abortion under some rather stringent conditions. Roe v. Wade was the result of a lawsuit brought in Texas by a woman who already had 3 children. We know her pseudonymously as Jane Roe. Roe was denied hospital permission to get an abortion. She tried to find an illegal abortion and discovered that the nearby clinic had moved away from her district. She then went to see 2 attorneys, Sarah Weddington and Linda Coffey, who together championed the lawsuit that would reach the Supreme Court and which would be decided in January of 1973. Abortion, the court decided, was in fact a fundamental right of women. Subject to strict scrutiny, it could not be arbitrarily denied to a woman in her first trimester of pregnancy, and, with her doctor's assent, might be performed into the 2nd trimester and even the 3rd if her life was at stake. The decision was rooted in a woman's right to privacy. Widely celebrated by the National Abortion Rights Action League, NARAL, Planned Parenthood, and other advocates for women's choice, the decision was greeted with enormous relief by women who could now legally terminate their pregnancies. Some 75% of the population approved the decision. But it drew opposition among those, like Phyllis Schlafly, who believed that it was wrongly decided. Abortion, declared opponents, would destroy the family. In providing women with the right to make decisions regarding the fetus, legal abortions would destroy the male ego, undermine the home, and dismantle family life. This was only the first salvo in what would be a continuing battle to restrict abortion. The first step was the Hyde Amendment. In 1976, Congress passed a law declaring that no federal dollars should be available for abortion purposes. Hospitals that received federal monies, military hospitals, mothers who were on welfare, for example, none of them would be allowed to use federal dollars to obtain abortions. In a second strike, Webster versus Reproductive Health, the Supreme Court decided that states could enact reasonable restrictions on the abortion right. They could, and did, regulate the location of abortion clinics, the number of clinics in any particular area, the medical facilities under which abortion could occur, and the medical training of those who provided abortions. They could also insist on parental consent for teenagers, counseling and waiting periods for all applicants, and sonograms before the procedure took place. The Supreme Court thus licensed states to erode abortion pretty much at will. A few years later, it granted women who sought terminations a small reprieve. In Planned Parenthood versus Casey, the court decided that the fetus's viability should govern when and how abortions were performed. Without negating the trimester approach, it suggested that fetal viability should be the dominant factor in the decision of medical personnel to abort or not. That left proponents, opponents, and scientists to argue about the moment of viability. In all these ways, the struggle for and against abortion rights echoed a much larger concern in the minds of both men and women. Given the need for wage-earning women to control their reproductive choices, would restrictions inhibit their capacity to earn as men did? Were the courts really participating in a struggle for the rights of women to work under equal conditions? The mixed reception that Roe v. Wade received among minority groups illustrates the dilemma of government regulation of abortion. Minority groups like the Black Panthers and the Young Lords, who represented Puerto Rican activists, held the position that abortion was a form of genocide, designed by dominant white populations to destroy black babies. They argued the right to terminate a pregnancy often meant the right to sterilize poor women of color. While white women, at least affluent white women, didn't really want to have babies, poor black and Hispanic women had often been sterilized against their wills, sometimes because they were on welfare, sometimes to punish them for a sexual freedom that in white eyes produced too many babies. When the Hyde Amendment restricted access to abortion for the poor, minority women perceived a discrimination that has not yet been overcome.